And good evening, and welcome to Heber Heights TJ Chumps. Boy, good crowd here tonight as we get into the Wright State University basketball and women's basketball as our focus for the next 30 minutes. I'm Chris Collins. Along to my right here, we have Katrina Merriweather, second-year head coach of the Wright State University women's basketball team, with a record now of 7 wins against just 2 losses and coming off a really good road win at Kent State University. You know, that's something we talked about when you came here to TJ Chumps here tonight before we went on the air, Coach, and you're really excited about that win up at Kent State.
Yeah, I think it was a good test for us. That team came in and we got down 20 a year ago. Just weren't ready to play, and I think that it really, really helped us to get some confidence against them this year.
72-60 was the final score. You look at the box score, and something interesting, you pretty much got all your scoring, almost all of it, 99% of it from your starters.
Yeah, you know, here's the thing. There's not a lot of room for error when you play good teams. So we had a couple of our bench players come in, and they weren't ready mentally to play. And so after a couple of mistakes, subbed them out and just went with the experience that we had. But they turned around and had some good practices, so I'm pretty hopeful still.
You know, in the past couple of shows, we talked about that loss of Providence. Since then, your Raiders have gone on a 4-game winning streak, and it's something you like to see this time of year because you look ahead at the schedule. You got some tough games leading into the Horizon League schedule, which begins at the end of the month. You go to Nashville next week, and you take on the Belmont Bison, and then also on the road against Georgia, the Bulldogs, before opening up the regular season of the Horizon League with who else? One of the top 25 teams in the country, and that is Green Bay on December the 28th. But first, you have a game this coming Thursday against Cincinnati Christian here at home.
Right. The game against Cincinnati Christian is one that you hope that we can take care of business from the beginning. We can try some different lineups and not to belittle the opponent one bit, because anytime you come and you're not ready to play, you foul a lot. Before you know it, you're just in a really bad spot. So I'm trusting that the team will come and show up and that we'll play hard and we'll get some experience for some of our bench players. In my defense, I scheduled Belmont and Georgia before the conference schedule came out. So I wasn't aware that we'd be opened up with Green Bay and Milwaukee. But I do think that that's going to be a great test for us very early to figure out where we are. So I'm kind of excited about it.
Well, that's where you turn to your upperclassmen, and you really like these players who have been here for a few years. It's to the point now you trust them.
There's no question. And I think that one thing that allows us to be really successful at this point is that we have a good enough starting 5 that when we do sub and try to do some different things, that if they're ready to go, then we can keep the fluidity going. If for some reason that they aren't, we can just go back with that 5 and get some things done. Now,
I know you said you're satisfied to this point offensively. A little inconsistency at times, but defense is something you want to see continually get better as you get closer to the league season. How's that going?
It's going better. What we did was something that traditionally I don't think that we've done in the past, and that is we went back and practiced this past weekend when normally we have those couple of days off, let them rest. But I really think that if we can get some of those young ones some reps defensively, that they can continue to progress. So that's kind of what we're going to do from here on out is keep drilling and then hoping along the season they'll keep getting better.
Well, it is exams week. It is, and you have a game on Thursday. So the experienced players, too, know how to go about, scheduling their time and what they need to do. You have a game coming up on Thursday before you guys hit the road again, as we mentioned, at Belmont this week. What are some of the things that you guys can do as a staff? Because every coach in the country, pretty much this is exam weeks for a lot of schools, in Division I college basketball. What are some of the things that you guys do to help them prepare for this?
Well, you have to give some credit to Megan Watson, who's our athletic academic advisor, who sits down with every one of our kids and makes sure that they have a weekly schedule. And then our coaching staff follows up with each kid as well so that we know what's going on in the event they get overloaded with multiple papers or exams in the same day. Again, the communication early and often, which is what we always ask for, allows them some flexibility. We have professors that are amazing, that understand we're playing at 11 o'clock on Thursday. So we have one kid have to move one of those finals, and they were very cooperative. So it's definitely a group effort, but I think we just try to prepare more than anything. That way we don't have any surprises.
Coach, I think you really like the team concept on this team, but, it's got to the point we've been doing a show every time we have a men's show this season, and it's great to have you here, but I think it's almost like we have a Chelsea Welsh segment. It seems like we always have something we talk about here, and she's picked up some more hardware.
Yeah, and I'm not going to complain about that one bit. Obviously, she's really talented, and I will reiterate over and over again, she's one of our hardest workers, and that's the reason why she is so successful in games. She plays so hard every time that we step on the floor.
Well, she just picked up the SAC Athlete of the Month award, named for the best Wright State captain throughout the month of November and then to December. So, I'm sure it's something that she's proud of, being part of that, especially from her peers to have that. But right now her focus is on this basketball team in her senior season, to continue to win and get to the NCAA tournament, because that's the prize. That's the ultimate prize. That's the goal which you guys have, and that's the one you set forth, and for these younger players to see that and see what it takes to get to that point.
It does, and one of the things that's most important is what you brought up, and that's scheduling. It's why you play those tough teams. It's why you play them on the road. It's why you go to tournaments and play 3 games in 3 days to try to measure out what our toughness is like. We're going to have those nights where we're not making shots. Again, who's going to want the ball more, who's going to defend, who's going to rebound. And those are the things we're trying to get out of our schedule and some tough competitive practices as well.
Well, it's something I'm sure that you've been addressing over the years as an assistant, and also you have a lot of help with your great staff that works with you. And talk about what it takes to put together a schedule. It's something a lot of fans talk about, be it men's or women's college basketball. What has it been like for you? What are some of the changes? What are some of the challenges that you faced over the years?
Well, again, those challenges started with Mike Bradbury. When you beat people that people think you're not supposed to, when we beat North Carolina State, it gets really difficult to schedule. People start referring to us as a trap game, where the kids may look at the name on our jerseys, not exactly know who Wright State is, and think that they're just going to win. And then obviously that's not always the case. Yeah,
ask Missouri. It almost happened there.
Correct. And I think that it's tough, so it makes it hard to schedule. And then you have other teams that look at us in the MAC a lot of the time and say, well, that's a bad loss. Teams in the MAC are not supposed to lose to teams in the Horizon League. So scheduling can be pretty difficult when you win a lot of games.
And that's where I would make the argument. You look at one of the other top teams in the Horizon League, and that being the Phoenix of Green Bay. Here recently, they came into Dayton and knocked off a good University of Dayton team, and they won by double digits. They're 23rd in the country. So, how can you say a team from the Horizon League, is a bad loss?
There's a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about. It's the same way with games. Even when we play poorly and you can tell I'm frustrated or not happy, you're like, but coach, you won. There's some bad teams out there. So we can not play our best and still come away and win. And that's why we don't get caught up in wins and losses a lot. We really evaluate what it is that we're doing in our growth and try to break down the areas where we need to get better and not necessarily always focus on wins and losses.
It's amazing. You mentioned Coach Bradbury early on, and you with that staff, and changing that culture and seeing this consistently winning every year, and the competition that you've had with the top teams in the league. And as you mentioned early this year, when a couple of our shows early, it's not only just Green Bay, Wright State. There's some other teams that are right up there, and anything can happen in this league this year. 4 or 5 really good teams.
There is, and people don't always look at the Sagarin ratings or the RPIs and things like that, but we have 4 teams in the top 100 right now, and obviously Green Bay is 21st in the country in one of the polls, 23rd in the other, I think, and then we also have 3 teams in the top 25 in the mid-major poll. Our league is very good. And it's okay. Again, most people.
Well, you like that because you're a competitive person.
Yeah. I love it. Now, I'll tell you, initially, you lose Valpo, and you're like, oh, man, we haven't lost them since Keith has been here.
Keith Freeman, your assistant.
Yeah, that's right. And then you take them out and you put in IUPUI, and IUPUI is beating people, and they're pretty good. And I think it's really, really wide open. And everybody's going to favor Green Bay because they should. I mean, when you win 19 years in a row, it's everybody else's job to dethrone them. And they're not going to go away easily, clearly.
And scheduling is a big responsibility for you and your staff. And another thing has to do with recruiting. And I know you had a big smile on your face. You have one of those here in attendance, and we'll talk about that when we return to TJ Chumps here in Huber Heights. This is the Katrina Merriweather Show, talking about Wright State hoops. This is Wright State University basketball.
Hi, I'm Bob Grody, class of 1976 and former Raiders player and coach. Did you know that once you're a Wright State grad, you're automatically a member of the Alumni Association? As a member, tap into the Wright State Network, attend a local alumni event, and earn discounts and special offers. Log on to WrightStateAlumni.com and make the most of your membership. Thank you, and go Raiders.
Hey, and welcome back. We have a really good crowd here tonight at the T.J. Chomps in Huber Heights. If you're in the area, stop on by. Got a few seats available for you. If you don't know where that's at, just off Interstate 70 and State Route 201, that's Brant Pike, here in Huber Heights, near the Rose Music Center and the Meyer store. Katrina Merriweather will be talking Wright State women's basketball until up to the top of the hour. Then we have the Scott Nagy Show talking about Wright State University men's hoops. And Coach Merriweather, before we left for that last break, talked about, you can see her right back there. She's one of your new recruits. Tell all the fans who are here tonight packing this room who that is.
Well, first of all, thank y'all for coming. It's so nice to come out and see so many people that support us. That's awesome. That is Tanisha Dixon, who signed with us, that will be starting classes in the spring semester on January 8th, and she is from Canada. And it's also a pretty neat story. I went down and recruited her out of Midland Community College, and she made a decision to stay down there in Texas. I think she liked the weather.
Hey, it snowed there last week. Maybe they moved around there.
It did, see. And a couple weeks, some stuff happened, different coaching changes. You all know how tough that can be when a new coach comes in, and you may not have necessarily been recruited by that coach. And so she gives me a call and says, hey, I want to know if you were still interested. Well, yeah, for sure. Again, very tough post player who I think really fits our style, that is aggressive, and I really look forward to having her in practice before she's eligible to play.
Yeah, she's obviously signed her letter of intent. She's here, and like you told us, she's signing up for classes. We'll begin classes in the second semester, and that means that she'll be able to practice with you. And, talk about that. I know you just mentioned it. How big is that for your team to be able to have somebody like that here to be able to practice with?
Well, it's huge, and again, if you're not in it, it's not all that easy to assume what happens in practice. But as you get deep into the season and you're doing a lot of scouting, it's easier to run your whole team through if the scouting team can stay the same. So Ashley Barlow, who's in charge of practice players, works really hard to get a really reliable group of people to come in and help us, and we've got two amazing practice players, Lamar and Jackson, to help us out a lot. Well, what that does is you get those two, and then you get Tanisha, and now you've got some quality players that are going against and running the other team's stuff. So that makes practice be a little more realistic, and it helps you prepare a lot.
You got to be really excited, too, and Coach Barlow is here also, right? She's back here? Yeah, there she is. All right. And we've talked to her before, and maybe we'll get her on again sometime this year to be able to talk with her and all the things that she does for your staff. But just seeing somebody like that with all that enthusiasm, coming in here and wanting to be a part of the team so early on, that's infectious. And players who are here already are going to see that. It's really a shot in the arm.
I think it's nice. Halfway through, and again, we have awesome kids, but we can all remember being 18 and 22. I tease them a lot about it's the most selfish time of your life, and it probably should be, where you're focusing on yourself and academics and basketball and getting your life set to propel you into adulthood. It's nice to have a reminder of someone who is not tired because they haven't been here ever since June. That's just really excited about the opportunity, and I do hope that that'll rejuvenate them a little and say, hey, we've got something special here. Let's kind of reignite that fire a little.
We're getting holiday season. You got the exams week. We've already talked about you've got a tough schedule ahead. You start the league season on the 28th, but still, it's like 24/7, for you and your staff. Take us through that, what it's like. Obviously, people who know you, they can see that, that you have such a passion, for this job, and you really, really have to have that, to be able to do this, because recruiting is still going on right now, too. We talk about the ones who have signed to this point, still players you're continuing to look at. And my question has to do, and we talked about this earlier before we went on the air, and that is the approach that you take with recruiting. Some coaches, men's, women's, whatever, they like to sprinkle in maybe some JUCOs. Sometimes you just go all with the freshman players. What is your philosophy on that?
Well, I've only been coaching as the person who makes all the decisions now for 2 years. And right now I can tell you 4 freshmen is too many.
Not the standpoint from skill level, but from other reasons.
Yeah, you're talking about 4 people who are transitioning life. We're not just talking about basketball. We're talking about time management, nutrition, all these different things that they have to grab a hold of. And they have really high expectations with us. I don't expect them to come in as freshmen and not play and sit and wait their turn. They're supposed to be competitive from the moment that they walk in the door. That's what they're recruited to do. So I jokingly, seriously say that. So that next class, we do have 2 freshmen, and then Tanisha is going to be added in, obviously, who will get a little bit of a head start this semester. And I just think that that's helpful to get the classes balanced a little bit.
What about redshirting? A lot of schools like to redshirt players because of that transition you talk about from high school to college.
And I think it's possible. Again, it gets a little sticky. There's these rules out here now where obviously if you graduate in 4 years, then you can leave and play your 5th year somewhere else. And Wright State men's and women's basketball have been affected by that rule where people have done that. So I'm not necessarily a fan of redshirting kids, but I do understand if there's some circumstances where it can help their development. You look at Loudon, and how could you ever argue that that is a bad idea? I mean, he looks great.
Yeah, Loudon love with the men's team as well as Everett Winchester.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, I forgot Everett did it too. So there's some circumstances, again, where I think it's a great idea, and the kid has to be on board with it.
Well, you're rolling the dice too, like you had mentioned, with that 5th year rule, graduate rule, and you're seeing a lot of that go on in college basketball, men's and women's basketball. Is this something that's addressed during the Final Four when the coaches get together, or anytime? Is this? I mean, what are you hearing about this, or is it being talked about at all?
Chris.
All right. Okay, we hit a nerve.
Here's the thing: the people that sit and have the biggest voices and make those rules on our side are the ones that are recruiting off of our rosters. So, it's kind of hard to expect them to make a rule that doesn't benefit them. We literally, and I have a lot of people that I respect at that level, and it's not their fault. If the kid is willing to leave, then, you can't force them to stay. And obviously, Rochelle Vanderkiel went with Mike to New Mexico, and no one was upset about that whatsoever. Again, he recruited her. She was a good player. It's a different circumstance, and no one was bitter about that. But I do think that there's a lot of situations where that's not the case, and how it's handled is not upfront and professional whatsoever. And it's really frustrating for a college like Wright State, a university like Wright State, to invest 4 years into someone, and then on their 5th year, they just pop up and leave and go play somewhere else.
I guess that's where you try to establish early on, what you guys do, and, that's bonding with your teammates. What's most important, for each, student athlete and what they expect. Because you don't know when you recruit them. They can tell you're looking at them right in the eye and say, oh, yeah, coach, I want to be here 4 years, and, I'm going to do the best. And come that senior year, if they have a 5th year transfer available for that, then, you don't know. They might say, well, I got an offer, coach.
For sure.
It's frustrating.
It is. And in defense of the kid, too, again, that rule is because coaches are allowed to leave. And so if I'm a senior and I've got a year left and the coach takes a job somewhere else, or that coach gets fired, and I'm nervous about who the new coach could be, well, maybe I don't want to roll the dice and figure out who my new coach is going to be. And I'll go play somewhere else, maybe on a team that coach recruited me from high school. So it's not as black and white or cut and dry as it may seem. There's a lot of circumstances that do surround it, and, to each his own.
With that in mind, though, does it change the way you recruit student athletes?
It doesn't. It doesn't for me. I'm super personal in terms of recruiting, very organic. Like, you make connections with people and their families. It's important to me who they're surrounded by, how they were raised, how they were brought up. When we're trying to bring 15, 18 to 22-year-old females together, some of you all probably have daughters, and there's only 2 of them in the house, and it's a ruckus. So imagine if there's 15 of them. And so they have to be really, really good kids that understand the common goal here, that we are trying to win championships, but also graduate and make a lot of memories along the way.
What about the recruiting process when you were being recruited before you went to Cincinnati? Because we all know your background, Indianapolis, some great players coming out of there, and your love for the game of basketball and within your family. What was it like for you when you were recruited, and now those things that you're using to be able to bring student athletes in here at Wright State?
Well, I think one was I was playing volleyball in high school, and we were actually pretty good. I wasn't, but the team was. And, my teammates played at UCLA and that kind of stuff, and Duke, one of them. So we played into the last weekend before the signing period. So I only went on one official visit. That was the University of Cincinnati, and the other 2 schools I wanted to go to were UIC because I love Chicago, so I thought. And,
So you thought.
until my parents and I all went up there, and there was, at that time, there was like a gate around the university,
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
across the street from the projects.
Right.
Yeah, wasn't going to happen. My mom vetoed that really quick.
Listen to mom. Yeah.
Definitely listen to mom in New Mexico,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
How about that? Yeah.
But all someone had to do was show me a map, and it changed my mind. It's like, that's really, really far. So to me, it was just a matter of personal connection. Again, Mike recruited me. Esther McMillan, who was the other assistant, recruited me, and we built a relationship where I trusted them, and those are the people that made me want to be college coaches, where you get to know kids and you really feel like you can help them grow in every aspect, and that's always going to be the priority. It's always going to be bigger than winning games, because if you take care of them in that manner and they're talented enough, the games will come.
Yeah, very interesting. We're going to take another break. We're coming to you live from TJ Chumps in Huber Heights. This is the Katrina Merriweather Show and Wright State University basketball.
My name is Emily. I'm a sophomore here at Wright State. Obviously, I'm on the basketball team. I'm from Cincinnati. My deciding factor for choosing Wright State was the coaching staff and how friendly everyone is. When I was on my visit, we came to see BG and Doylan and everyone. Got to tour the facilities, so it was really nice to feel that family environment instead of I'm about to go to school and not really know anyone, but it was nice to meet everyone. My favorite class is geography. I mean, I'm not really good at it, but I look forward to class every Monday and Wednesday with my professor. His name's Arliss Perry. He's passionate about geography, so it's nice to go there and have learning actually be fun. I would definitely choose Wright State again. I love it here.
And welcome back to TJ Chumps here in Huber Heights, next to the Rose Music Center, as well as Meyer, just off State Route 201, Brant Pike, and Interstate 70. We'll be here with Coach Merriweather for the next 6 minutes, and then Coach Scott Nagy talking about Wright State men's basketball from 6 until 7 here at TJ Chumps. Just a program reminder, going to be off because the teams will be away. We will be not back with the coaches' shows again until January 1st, believe it or not, New Year's Day. We're going to be at the TJ Chumps location in Fairborn at 5:30 for the women's show, and Coach Nagy's show following that from 6 until 7. So, got any questions, you can always go online to the website at wsuraiders.com and get complete information on the shows this year and also the complete schedule for men's and women's basketball. And Coach Merriweather, we were talking about, scheduling, we're talking about coaching, we're talking about recruiting. There's so much involved as a college basketball coach. These days people ask me, they say, well, what do you think of these coaches moving from one school to the next, and how much money they make? And I thought about it for a moment. I said, it's like fans, and it's just human nature for them to say they feel like they have ownership, which they do. I mean, look at this loyal following here tonight, all these people out here tonight. We so appreciate them coming out. But I think it's just so tough for them, to understand, why these things happen. And generically speaking, I have no problem. A coach, if he can make as much money as he can, by all means do so, because you never know down the road when some things might change or something from the past comes up, and then they have nothing else because that's what their job has been their whole life.
I don't get caught up too much in good and bad or better or worse. To me, to each his own. I coach in college because I had really amazing coaches when I played basketball, and it's more about that than it is wins and losses or money. Just because it has a bigger name and a bigger conference or it pays you more money does not make it a better job. It is and will always be the people that make a place. And again, when you have a great administration, when you've got a great staff, and all my coaches recruit, all the way down from Jenny Dant to now Kim Demings, they're going to participate this weekend when Tanisha's here. And to me, those are the things that matter the most. I want to get up every day and feel like I'm not going to work, and that I actually love it. And that's why we work as hard as we do, while we're all focused as much as we are. It's because we love working together.
And here at Wright State, I mean, you're so blessed to have this staff, because I look down and I see the pedigree and where they have been at and what they've accomplished, and they're so humble in what they do with your staff. You have a great staff. I'm
telling you, there's no question. There's about only one thing that I bragged about when I got hired a year and a half ago, and it was the staff that we were able to put together. And again, that's the support from administration, trusting me as well to make those decisions and do those things, and they have proven to be worth everything that I thought they were, and it's why we have a chance every time we roll that ball out.
You feel a little more comfortable now in your second season than a year ago when things like, okay, wait a minute, I'm in charge now, making all the decisions.
It's still different. It's still different, and I always tell people the biggest difference is you go from making suggestions to making decisions. I could walk in Mike's office and offer all these suggestions and walk out, go back to my desk, and now you make decisions, and they're not always the right ones, or there could have been a better one, and you just have to figure out how to push through and figure it out.
So it's like experience. You can look back on your experience to making those decisions. So right now it's almost like you said you've talked with Coach Bradbury, who's moved on to New Mexico. You talk with him about certain issues, but is it getting a little easier for you now, just a little bit, to be able to make these decisions, immediately?
I would say so. The ones that are repetitive. Now, those new ones, we still have immediate staff meetings where we all sit down, get together, and I really value their opinion and what they have to say. And I'm not above walking in Coach Nagy's office and asking him questions either. When you have resources and people who have been successful that are around you, I think the smart person realizes that you're only as good as the people that you're surrounded by.
Well, you've got some games coming up. We mentioned Cincinnati Christian. It's an 11 o'clock start at the Irvin J. Nutter Center this coming Thursday. And then you hit the road, going to be taking on Belmont. And then also you have Georgia before coming back home to start out the league season with Wisconsin Green Bay on the 28th.
Yep, it'll be exciting. We're looking forward to it. You got to figure out where you are, so you got to play people.
And you're playing one at a time, don't you, Coach?
Just one game at a time.
All right. Well, this show, the time is up right now. We want to thank everybody here, and stay tuned. We got Coach Scott Nagy talking about Wright State men's basketball. Coach Merriweather, good luck to your team between now and the next time we meet.
Thank you very much.
All right, stay with us. We got the Scott Nagy Show coming up next here at TJ Chumps in Huber Heights. This is Wright State University basketball.